The root is usually the man being depleted, right? You're depleted and now your dynamic has changed within your relationship. So your wife's getting confused. But it's very interesting how when you play the game correctly and you understand the significance of your sexual energy, you eventually figure out that it's the inverse that keeps a woman hooked and in love with you, right? Addicted to you. Man, what's going on, guys? Boy, can you guys tell that I'm sleep deprived right now? One of my favorite things with semen retention is you can be tired as shit, and on the outside looking in, they won't have a clue. Sometimes you don't sleep right, so your face gets puffy and all that, but I feel like I can override a lot of that with semen retention. Some of my best, really, ideas, they've come in a very manic state, right? But anyways, I was walking to Publix, and you guys know this, I'm always at Publix, but I'm always on my way to the meat section every day. And watching the couples in front of me walk into the store, you can tell a lot as to who wears the pants, right? You guys see this stuff. I hate that I can judge another man's relationship so easily, right? I can already imagine what their entire dynamic is like in the bedroom just off of how they're walking together, right? How they're entering a store and how the husband's not really, taking the lead, right? I hate that I can tell who is in control in that relationship. Damn near the wife is opening the door for the man, you know what I mean? You could just tell this guy has no say in his relationship. If he wants to buy something, he's got to ask the wife. You can just tell. A lot of men, I feel like, are in relationships by obligation, right? They're weak to the vagina, right? They're there because it's their best case scenario source of sex, right? Wifey. So they've got to behave. They got to do that. So, they're full on simps, right? That's like as bad as it gets. And I can relate to a certain extent, back when I was, nutting with my woman all the time and, I was just a complete degenerate sexually. Even then, I don't think I was that bad or that weak. I think the gym and, weightlifting, athletics, all that stuff, I think it kept me as masculine as I could be, right? While doing all the other degenerate stuff, right? So it kept my masculinity quotient to a certain baseline. But these new men are not doing any of that. And they're nutting left and right with their woman. So, the aura is weak, so it's very hard to respect dudes like that, man. I'll tell you guys this. So in the beginning of my streak, I was in a relationship and I did the tantra and, non-ejaculatory sex with my woman, all that. To get to that point, I had to make some realizations. When I released with my girl, right? This is before the tantric sex, before, semen retention while in a relationship. When I released with my girl, she got very confident. She got very bold. There are things that I know she just would never have the confidence to, or at least with me, try saying this or try doing that. Things like that she just would never do prior to me releasing, right? And again, we've talked about this before. Women, they take your energy, they absorb it, they've got a fragment of you. And if you're someone who's very masculine or, dominant, or whatever it is, right? They take a fragment of your personality and run with it. And so my girl was getting very bold, right? She was getting very affirmative, confident behavior. Let's say we went out, I found me following her around the store. It's like unconscious stuff. And the weird thing for me is, yeah, even after releasing with my girl, I was still working out and, keeping my health intact. So there was always still a baseline masculinity. Even then, I couldn't fully fucking control it, right? You guys have heard this shit. You can't really fake having, masculine energy, right? You can know all the red pill stuff. You can know everything about female nature, but there was always something with me that, again, on the outside looking in, I'm still masculine, but I would have these little holes in my armor. Usually, certain things that I would say and it would just come out of me naturally. Now I'm finding myself second guessing it or being hesitant, or maybe I'm not gonna say that because I don't want to hurt her feelings, right? Things like that. And what's weird about it is that I was able to have a bird's eye view as to what was going on. I knew right when I did weak stuff like that, I was kind of like, what the hell, Ross? Internally, I'm like, why did you say that? Or what was that? So I was hyper conscious about the weak things that I was doing but I was still doing them. If you guys understand what I'm saying, right? So there's a part of this that's kind of beyond the weightlifting and beyond the, the masculine know-how, right? The learned masculinity. Because when I was retaining and I had my energy intact, I didn't second guess. I'm someone who's I'm a natural flirt. I like to tease. I've got a sharp tongue. So things will just flow and just come out naturally, right? I found myself losing that rhythm, right? Losing that timing, right? That wittiness. Like I was, second guessing things that I would have just normally said. That stuff threw me off because I was like, it's like I was watching myself from a bird's eye view being weak. And I knew what I was doing. I knew I was being weak, but then I kept going through with it, right? So I don't want to say it's like I had no control over it, but in a sense, I had no control over it, right? I just did it. I hate to say it, but I had some really simpy things that I would do. And the thing is, I was aware of it, I knew what the hell I was doing sometimes. I would be like having this internal monologue with myself, like, yo, what the hell did you just do? But I was okay with it, That's what would disgust me. I was like, damn, why did that not bother me more? Why was I just like whatever with it at the time? You know what I mean? And this is like soon after, like 5-10 minutes after doing some weak shit, I'm like, hey, real quick, if the practice of semen retention resonates with you, I wrote an entire ebook on it called Protocol. It has everything. Chapter 1 is completely free. You can read it if you want using the first link in my description. What the hell was that, Ross? This is one of those things that made me realize that you can't fake things with women, right? Within your relationship dynamic. They're just going to feel it and instinctually react based on what's happening, right? So you lost all the masculine energy, you gave it to her. Well, she instinctually is going to take advantage of that. She's going to feel more bold, she's going to feel more confident. But all this changed after, retaining and keeping my energy intact within my dynamic. The roles were reversed. So my woman became more submissive. She became more feminine. She became, she didn't do any of that bold stuff anymore. Obviously, we want women who are confident within their feminine energy, right? But to do what I'm doing and try to, be masculine like me, and she's not thinking anything about it, she's just doing that. No. That stuff threw me off. But it's very interesting how when you play the game correctly and you understand the significance of your sexual energy, you eventually figure out that it's the inverse that keeps a woman, your wife, your girlfriend, hooked and in love with you, right? Addicted to you. And for those of you guys who think you're gonna go abuse this with random women and just not nut, like there's more to it, right? I always mention you have to do this within a loving dynamic. Now, I'm not saying it has to be your wife or your girlfriend, but there's got to be genuine mutual love in your dynamic, right? The universe doesn't see titles, it doesn't see labels, it doesn't see wife, girlfriend. It just sees the frequency of two people coming together, right? So there's got to be love within your dynamic for this to be beneficial, right? For this to work. If you want to be reckless, you do want to keep your seed intact anyways, right? If you're going to be going through these whores. At the end of the day, you guys have to understand this is very simple. The penis and the female organ, right? The womb, the female sexual organ, these two things, these two entities, they communicate with one another, right? So I mentioned this in a video a while back, early on. I don't remember which video I mentioned this in, but I think I talked about this. Our sexual organs communicate with one another. The feelings we get when we're into someone and we're like, ooh, I like him or I like her. There had already been inner communication with your sexual organ and your potential partner's sexual organ, right? Before your mind told you, I'm attracted to her, I like her, any of that stuff. Before your minds did that to one another, there was already a hidden communication, a hidden form of communication happening with the two of you guys. With modern day sex culture and how everyone's using condoms and people are having sex and the biological imperative isn't being fulfilled, right? Kids aren't being born, no one's getting pregnant. If you've ever been curious as to why a lot of modern relationships come to a very predictable end, it's because of how people are having sex within those relationships, yeah? If you're sitting there having sex with a woman and you guys are doing your thing, you got a condom or not, you guys are having sex, you end up releasing your body and her body they're both aware that you're releasing. From an energetic standpoint, there's a frequency shift happening when you release. So from an energetic standpoint, your body knows that there's been a release. Okay, cool, that's out of the way. Physically, the womb and the penis, these two sexual organs are communicating. They both know that there was a release. Okay, time and time again, this guy keeps releasing over here in this womb, right? But nothing is happening. Eventually, something will happen to where the woman feels it in her womb and something just tells her, I'm not really feeling this guy anymore, right? I don't know. She'll find some random excuse. Yeah, I don't like how he walks, or he's not ambitious enough, this and that, some bullshit, right? Her sexual organ has told her, yo, this guy is no longer viral. This guy's got no fertility. He can't get us pregnant, right? He's useless to us. Get rid of him. Okay. Yeah, I'm not feeling it anymore. This is how the game goes. And a lot of guys are very oblivious to it. You can abuse sex and have your fun, but there's always underlying consequences to everything that you do, right? This is really focused on women because, again, women, eggs are expensive, sperm is cheap. You've heard this saying. Their biological imperative, right? Their biological goals, it's a little more sensitive from a natural standpoint. So they've got to be a little bit more cautious. So it's no surprise that in most relationships, when they end, it's the woman who kind of initiates that, right? It all goes together, right? You guys have to understand your seed is very, very powerful, because when you do the opposite and you retain, now that womb realizes that, okay, this guy's viral, this guy's very, very fertile, and it keeps trying, and it's going to want to keep trying to get you to do your biological imperative, right? Get the woman pregnant. So in real time, in real life, this looks like non-ejaculatory sex, right? You're having sex, but you're not releasing. This is why this binds your woman, right? It keeps her really in love with you. It keeps her more feminine. The list goes on. And from a spiritual standpoint, this is how you start helping your woman activate, right? But I'm not going to get too into that right now. It's very straightforward, guys. Simping behavior has a root for men within relationships. Simping behavior within relationships, the root is usually the man being depleted, right? You guys are aware of the energy shift we talked about in the last video. It goes further in a relationship, right? Because you're depleted and now your dynamic has changed within your relationship. So your wife's getting confused. A lot of men don't have the willpower to, enter a woman and then come out intact. I challenge you, if you're someone who is in a relationship, try this out for a couple of weeks, right? A couple months, and get back to me. Let me know if you notice any shift in your wife's behavior.